Good evening. So, I wasn't going to stream. I was going to stream, and then I wasn't going to stream. Uh, just because I'm just trying to fix stuff, and I don't know. I feel like sometimes I just need to just stop talking. And it's not like I've got a million followers out there, or even 10 that show up regularly. So, yeah, here I am. Just yeah. So I did some work on local game processing, and I've done a lot of code refactoring, just cleaning up code. Um, and it's been kind of a slog. A slog? Slog? Is it slog or slog? I don't know. It's been kind of a pain in the rear. But, and I'm getting these weird messages. I don't know what the heck they are. They happen only when I start up. I clear them out and then they go away. So I don't know what's happening during startup. Uh, just another one of those weird things, I guess. I can. It's weird though. If I hide this, it doesn't turn back on. So I've got to do something to make sure it reactivates when I need it. So if I do that, it won't show up, which is not good. So I have to activate the sim container, and which is weird. I only have to activate it obviously when a simulation starts. But see, these are the bugs I've been dealing with. I narrowed it down. I mean, there was 20 some of these, and I've had to troubleshoot a bunch of them. But um, I I put in a debug stop or breakpoint, and it's just ignoring it. I mean, I'll try to. I mean, obviously, right there it did because I was disconnected. But I mean, earlier it was just doing its own thing. It says, "Nah, I'm not going to stop there." Like, nah, that doesn't sound cool. So I did. And the thing is, there's only one. I mean, it's all it does. It's a debug statement, and then here. I mean, this is like the first thing. So if it goes in here at all, it's supposed to stop on these two guys. And I want to read this response because it says it's an invalid response. I want to see what it's getting. Now, I can understand if one of these things errored or something, but if it's getting here, I shouldn't be seeing an error. There's no errors in there. Okay, so let's try it again. I don't know why my breakpoints aren't hitting, but and I know this because I click this error and it goes straight to that error space. And we load. All right, where are we? Let's fetch all plays. That's not where I was supposed to be, or not where I expect to be. Unless, oh, you know what it could be doing? Oh, no, never mind. I was thinking it was raising an air up and hitting the top level, and that was the top level, but it would have to be called from that level, and there was nothing to call because I called the very first line, so I broke on the very first line. Okay, so we got to figure this out. I don't think I don't even know why. Oh, okay. Playbook plays I need because this is part of the load. This is just part of standard load processes. Okay, here we are. Oh, it broke this time. Okay, so I restarted Unity. Apparently that fixed it, which is good. All right, let's go see what this says. So I don't need this one because that's just there to give me an earlier breakpoint. And go here, do that. I can get rid of all of these. I've been trying to eliminate so many of these debug log lines. There's so many of them in here. There's too many. I don't really care for positive debug lines unless they're like tracking. In other words, like maybe they're hit points, places where points at which I hit, like executing this function, executing this function, executing this function. This way, if something's blowing up, I can see the whole flow. And that's what I ideally I would put something like a trigger where I can say turn on flow logs, and then have every single procedure that I actually call in this code have a conditional log that says, if flow set true, it'll show you what procedures we're hitting. And this way, then when I see an error come up, I'll see the whole call stack. Because I want to start setting up a logging system that goes through and actually puts in the application whenever an action starts, it basically will save the flow or check the flow. And if there's no errors that happen in the entire thing, then it throws it out. But if an error does occur, it logs it. So I basically create this process log that just saves every procedure that gets called in a path, basically a call stack. And then if it hits an error, the error goes into that call stack and it records it, the whole process. Then I can go look, okay, what happened? I went down, I called these, called this, called this, called this. I hit this, bam. Okay, what happened? Then I know where it's occurring, what's happening, what was going on at the time it blew up. And maybe I, save, like, hopefully if my error logs are good, they'll tell me what data was called, and then I can kind of go, all right, I can see what happened. That's the ideal, and I have to implement that at some point, probably before it's a major thing. It's something I could be working on for, I don't know, a couple weeks at least to get that in place. But let's go see what my response is. It totally does not like this. So is it going to crash right there? Oh wow, it just crashed. Oh no, it did. Okay. I just didn't hit F. I just didn't F11. I hit F10. All right, so the response, it's not null. Oh, it is null. Teams is null. Ew. So Teams is supposed to be null. That's not an error. Oh wait. Fetch default teams. Why am I calling fetch? That's a thing too. Why am I calling fetch default teams? That's probably the bigger question, because why is this being called, or where is this being called? Because at this point of the game, at this point of load, I shouldn't be calling the fetch default teams. The fetch default teams should only be called in one place, and that's after. Let's see here. Fetch default teams, current directory. No. All right. So we have game data. We have the simulator. That doesn't matter. I have a bunch of places where fetch default. Okay, so that's totally broken. Like the announcement board panel. What the heck is it calling this for? Okay, so this, this is a thing. I think I actually brought this up with AI earlier, and I thought I fixed it already. So, in fact, I may have mentioned this last night when I was coding or streaming. What's happening here is the app is defaulting. There was a fetch default teams API endpoint, and whenever I created a new league, it would just use fetch. It was called fetch all teams, but the endpoint only fetches default teams, which totally does not work for what we're supposed to get. And it has to be fixed. So basically, I'm calling it way too often. There's only like 2 places this thing should be getting called. And that's once if the person is an admin, they'll get the default teams as part of their list. And beyond that, maybe at load time to put it into the local database, to sync the default teams into the local database. So that is That's pretty major. Okay, so team name selection. These are totally calling the wrong thing. Load team. See, this is like totally wrong. So what we want is, all right, let's stop. Load teams for selection, which is supposed to be the user's team. Did I do something? Make it compile. Oh, I know. Never mind. I gotta get out of the code. Stop trying to run the. Okay, so I broke it. All right, so let's go here and change this. Get teams by user ID. Do I want user? I don't want the user IDs teams. Player teams by user. So I want them by league ID. Did I not get a league ID back when it creates? So we call create. So what's happening here? The first thing we do, we go, see, let's go to the title panel. I gotta follow some stuff around here first, title screen panel. All right, so we go here, and then we go activate app load panel. And then we do the load panel, which is not the announcement board. And then we go down here, user create, set active. We don't have anything on here calling it. Startup progress. This might call the right teams. That might be correct. Why is it calling it again? Load team logos with progress. Load team character poses with progress. Why do we need all that twice? Well, that's just goofy. All right, so we're gonna change this. Got to clean this up. It's just a mess. A mess. Okay, so we're gonna go up here. We're gonna go. Verify the image is configured correctly. Progress point type, okay. I'm down to 200 and something console logs, so I'm doing pretty good. I was at over 1,000. I had to have AI help me get rid of some of that, but some of it was just iterative, and it would just keep calling the same things over and over. It's like, oh, this is stupid. So then I had to start just kind of going through and cleaning up and reading all the code again, and just seeing what AI did. Why did it put so many freaking comments in? And why was I not paying attention to that? I looked through code and watched that, I have to fix this or fix that, and I wasn't even paying attention. And I realized, wait a minute, that's too much, man. Load play images. Playbook service not available. See, that's an error. Anytime you have something like this come up, it's like dun dun dun. Can't have that. All right, so, but I do need to go back to where I was. Okay, this error, I don't care that it's called. What I do care is why, or when it's calling it. Making API. No, don't need that. I don't. That's dumb. Okay, so successfully. Again, don't need successfuls. I only care about fails. And then sample team. Sample team. What the heck is sample team? Oh, just sampling. It's just giving me a team that came back. Log the first few teams for debugging in case there's something wrong. I don't know. just in case. So that's the actual setup for it. Then we have sim type button manager. Why do we need this? This is different also. Sim type button manager. That must be during the sim process. Load all team info. Load all teams info for matchmaking animation. See, that's not really necessary either. I actually have a function that I had. Well, I may have had. Let's go look. I used up my Claude code the other day, and as a result, I had a few processes. I had a lot going on. I was doing a lot of things, and debugging stuff, and just a variety of things. And ultimately, it didn't. Okay, so that's not. Let's go ahead and close that. This is me trying to hand off stuff to other things. Okay, so let's close this, and we'll open up Claude again. I have to go to my Claude history. Yeah, this function works. Update the league service, create function. This is another planning only question. Now I have the implement. Okay, so one is one of these. Limit reached, yeah. What was the question? I had it doing a lot of stuff. I wish I big and I just gotta remember what it was I asked. Hold. Loading should in fact load all default teams into a teams collection backend along with all the teams with user ID and league type AI only as part of the application's startup sync process. It should be handled in the same way as the should be handled the same way as the playbook. Same process, so it should already be. Alright, so it was doing stuff. Implementing the plan. Edit, 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 edit. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and see if it can pick up where it left off. Okay, that's fine. And then I'm going to go to a new window. Let's see what other thing I had going on. I think I had like 2 or 3 things I was going off, and I only have the $20 Claude. So as a result, yeah, this didn't even. This session has been continued from a previous conversation that ran out of context. The conversation is summarized below. Analysis. Let me initial request. See, this shows a bunch of stuff that I have long past. League struct. I may have to dump this task because I've kind of moved on past it. I'm just worried about leaving things in a kind of half broken mode. From shared core architecture in progress. Current message, pending tasks, future tasks, not start. Build mobile libraries, portfolio. Oh yeah, this is the whole setting up the local stuff that I did. Once this died, I just went and completed it. I just went through the steps and did it myself. So yeah, I can probably bag that one. All right, so what else we got? All right, I think that's good. We'll just let that one run. What do we got here? So it's dumping out some of my commented out comments, which I don't really care. Just cleaning it. I don't know why I didn't ask it to clean up my comments, but okay. And then it's doing a sync data with progress. Okay, so that's good. That works. I do kind of like, I'm getting used to doing it this way. Review it because it does it in pieces. Bezier doesn't do this the same way. Yeah, Bezier's kind of different. For one, you can't do a side by side with Bezier. No, Bezier doesn't let you do side by side. It just shows you everything it's doing. Chun. In what? In in Code or Visual Studio? I almost always use the debugger. I step through my code and watch and well, I have VS Code and then I have Visual Studio. In Visual Studio Code, I rarely use the debugger because it's really buggy. it just doesn't work for me. I keep trying to get it started, and I've had it working for some stuff, and other things it just fails. It's like, I don't know, I've just had a real hard time getting it to work. Like I was able to get it working when I developed ClickUp Link, which was great because it really came in handy to use it for ClickUp Link, and I would step through the code and watch it work. But with Go, I've had a lot of problems getting it to work with Go. And I don't know if that's just me. I went through all kinds of different setup steps and trying to get things working. Eventually, I just kind of got to the point where I'm just using the print log. It's annoying because it ends up being a lot of extra debug stuff. Now, when I'm working in Unity, I use Visual Studio. And here, I use both. I use a lot of debugging. I step through the code. You can see I'm actually linked to Unity right now. And I'm stepping through the code, and that's how I got to this point right here, where I'm just trying to figure out what data it's returning and stuff. So I'm stepping through, and I was able to figure out where that's happening. But yeah, when I'm running in Unity, working with the Unity C# code, Visual Studio is spot on for debugging. I have zero problems getting things to work for debugging in Visual Studio. But code, yeah, I have trouble getting code to work half the time. It's a hit or miss. Like my the UI, my React Web that I built for this app as well, is I run that through Visual Studio, and I debug it there too. I can break on there and step through the code, and it's great because it just works. Debugging just works in Visual Studio. And for that, for that matter, or for that one reason only, I can't go without Visual Studio. In fact, there's times when I've considered just trying to move all my stuff into Visual Studio just because debugging just works. Stepping through the code just works. I have not been as lucky with VS Code. Now, there's probably plenty of code users out there who'll be like, "Oh, you're just setting it up right," or "You're not doing it right." That's possible. It's possible. I'm by no means claim to be an all-knowing guru of VS Code and how its inner workings are to things, but I have struggled with getting debugging working in code, specifically in Go. It would sometimes I'd get it and it would start and it would work like the first time I do it. And then it suddenly would start giving me these weird errors that say, this thing did not release its handle or some weird thing. And there was just no way to find it. I would Google it, not AI it, because AI didn't have a clue. I would Google it, and it would say, this is a common problem, just do this. And I would go do it, and it didn't fix it. I couldn't get it to go. So I gave up on it months ago, and now I mostly just do output logs for Go. Let's see what we got. Let's see. Team name selection, fetching team selection list. Where are we? This is team name selection manager. Let's just put in a debug. Local database instance, get all teams. Okay. That's fine, but this is the wrong team name selection should not be. That would normally be fine to fix. However, in this situation, that is actually the wrong endpoint called. The team name selection manager should not be fetching all teams. Also, get all teams is not a valid API to begin with, since there are no situations where we would ever want to fetch all teams. We might fetch all league teams, all telling I wanted to understand how I'm doing this. Sometimes you tell it, it'll like, oh, okay, well then let me restructure, and so I have to tell it exactly what's going on. We might fetch all league teams, all user teams, or even, whoops, no, stop, I didn't want to do that, I accidentally hit enter. No. API to begin with, since there are no. I type that all the time. I do not instead of no. I don't know why. My fingers always throw a T on there. No situations where we would ever want to fetch all teams. We might fetch all league teams, all user teams, or even all default teams, which this function is designed to do, but is being misapplied in this file. This file should actually be only fetching the teams from the league created for the user. Fetch the teams from the league just created. Oh, 49ers. Yeah, when, what was that, in the 90s that they won? Who did they beat? Does, like, wasn't it like, was it Pittsburgh? I don't know. It was like 92 early 90s, wasn't it? 92, 93? Or did they actually play the 95? Okay, so who was it? I don't remember who they played way back then. That was 2 years before Denver won their first Super Bowl. The Chargers. The Chargers. Because Denver won in 97 and 98. And then they won again in 2015. You know, the Broncos have been in a Super Bowl every decade that they've existed except two. And one was the 1960s. They never made it in the 60s. And then they were in a Super Bowl, and then they missed the Super Bowl by one game in 2005 for the 2000s. So they're working on their 2020s decade right now. Being in a Super Bowl, it's impressive, but it's obviously not the same as winning them all. I mean, Denver's got like the third most Super Bowl appearances, and they've only won 3, which... But hey, they're having a good year. After beating the Packers, I was like, oh, well, maybe we are able to rise to anybody's occasion. That was the year I think that Seattle got beat by Pittsburgh. Well, because everybody was thinking Denver was going to, because it had only been a few years since Seattle moved to the NFC, so everybody was excited about the possibility of Denver playing Seattle, but Denver got beat, and then Pittsburgh went and beat Seattle in the Super Bowl. It was, I think it was 2005, but they had gotten to the championship game right before and got beat by Pittsburgh, I believe it was. I think it was Jake Plummer was the quarterback of Denver at that time. Good old Jake Plummer. I actually thought Jake Plummer was going to be able to do it for us for a number of years, but he didn't stick around very long. Yeah, it's easy. I mean, you got enough years go by. I used to know everything that was going on with the Broncos. Everything. I mean, I could tell you the final scores of every game they played 2 years ago, but I'm a huge fan, but I'm more of a wait and see fan. I don't I'm not a wagon jumper. I've never not supported them for any reason. I'm disappointed in their bad seasons, but I'm always there. I'm not one of those. Seattle used to have terrible wagon jumpers. They had like no fans in the 90s before they started getting better. I mean, people would be like, they had blackouts. They were just a team that had a lot of trouble keeping their fan base. But then all of a sudden, they started doing good, and now they've got a pretty steady sellout streak. I think Denver's sellout streak is like the longest in the league. They've been selling out since like 1970. Oops. What do we change here? Default teams, get all teams. Yeah, Kaepernick really shot himself in the foot, didn't he? I mean, I don't know. It was even that he I don't know. It was like he was just the guy that was thrown under the bus. I mean, it wasn't like he was the only one, but somehow he just ended up being the martyr. Something happened, and everybody just like, I feel like he was just called out at a time when everybody was doing what he was doing, and he just, I don't know, his timing, something, whatever he did it at a bad time. He basically got blackballed. What a mess. Yeah, Mike Singletary, wasn't he like, when he played for the Raiders, didn't he? He was like a defensive back or something. I think he played for the Raiders. I should probably be focusing on my thing. I mean, this is just a task I have it doing, but it's not fixing my problem. It's like, oh yeah, let me actually do my thing. So I was gonna go look and see what the team's APIs are, because the API I need is the league ID. Now we get back sync. I think I need to actually go by league ID, because I don't want to be fetching it by the user ID, because in this case, they could potentially have multiple. Oh, Bears, you're right. That's right. He played for the Bears. And that was in the 80s, back during their Super Bowl shuffle days. Wow. They just said something interesting. I just saw somewhere. Pittsburgh has had 22 years straight of not having basically not having a losing record. 8-8 or better. That's a good streak. Most teams have a fall down somewhere in there. Denver through 2015 was the winningest team in the NFL since 1980. So for, what is that, 25 years? No, 35 years. They had the winningest record. Not every year, but cumulatively. So that they were always competitive since like 1980. And they were only like 2 or 3 games ahead of the Patriots, though. And of course, Denver fell off the cliff for the next 9 years. I'm not even sure how they rank right now, as far as winning. It's hard to lose that kind of streak completely, because it's just so many games. It takes a lot of games to really have a fluctuation, unless everybody's close. But I don't think everybody was close. So they're probably still a top 10 team, but I'm pretty sure they lost a lot of ground these last years. But hey, years like this one will help them make it up again if they can finish. They really got to beat Jacksonville. Now the 49ers, aren't they? They're still in the race too, aren't they? Don't they still have a shot at wild card? I mean, with the Rams and the Seahawks are kind of leading the league or leading the division, but the 49ers are like just on their tail, aren't they? Yeah, they're only 1 game back. So it's interesting. Nobody's really talking about them, but they're only 1 game out. And they have a winning streak as long as the Seahawks. So who are you rooting for on Thursday then? Who gives the 49ers the best chance to make the playoffs or to win the division or whatever? Gosh, I didn't even realize the 49ers are like 1 game back of the conference title, or the conference number 1 seed. Now, unless they've lost to both these teams or something. What is their... How have they done against Seattle and the Rams? Let's see. They got crushed by the Rams once. They did beat the Seahawks. They have another game against the Seahawks. Oh, and they beat the Rams. So they split with the Rams and they beat the Seahawks. Wow, people aren't talking about the 49ers, but they're in a good position. Because if the Seahawks beat the Rams and the 49ers are going to have to do some winning themselves. They're going to have to keep winning. But if the Seahawks beat the Rams and the 49ers win, they will actually be ahead of the Rams, having beaten them twice. And, oh no, they got crushed by the Rams. So they will split with the Rams, so they'll be even with them. I don't know what the tie breaks are after that. I mean, it's probably divisional. But still, your 49ers have a shot. They're in this race. The Seahawks and the Rams are trying to make it look interesting. And then the Seahawks have then the Seahawks and 49ers play in the final game of the season. Okay, so they have a game against the Bears. Bears are pretty good. Well, supposedly. A lot of people think they're about as much of a... Except they're starting to show their flaws. Everybody keeps saying Denver's a fraud. But they're starting to shut people down in that theory. Those people are getting pretty quiet now that they beat the Packers, who everybody said was going to beat them. Denver had like 2-game lead on the Packers, and they were favored to beat Denver in Denver. That was so insulting. But I'm glad Denver... I was a little nervous personally, I thought. But then again, the Packers were 14-point favorites to beat Denver in their first Super Bowl. And we all know how that went. 14 points, my foot. Ah, yes. Gotta love those 14-point underdog victories when your team's pulling it off. Okay. Oh, wait. I gotta stop AI. It's making mistakes. Oops. Wait. I think you have to rethink your calls. All functions. All data calls and functions should be going through the API router. Should not. I didn't even notice it was doing this. Be making any calls directly to any DB source. We call the same functions for everything. Those functions then call the API router to which will talk to the appropriate DB. Undo all the updates that are made to any file to correct these calls. Darn AI, you're breaking stuff. You know, the thing is, Claude created that functionality, but the thing is, I hit my Claude limit, and then I decided to try to pick up where I left off, which apparently was a mistake because it can't figure out where I left off, where it left off. Okay, so what I need to do is when we fetch the teams, we create the league. The league pulls back a teams. It's the teams. It should also be sending back the league ID. So when I call the league, create league, we're supposed to be getting a response back. So I call the create league handler, which is this guy. And what I should be, let's go back here. So this should be using, so it is going to have to go, because the league here fetches the teams. So this is going to have to be league data. So this is going to be totally different. Sim type button manager. Okay. That's different. This is going to be, this is a special function. God, I don't want to fix that one yet. That one's going to be a different function. This is a to-do. I don't think I created that. I was hashing it out the other day, but I have a situation where, okay, so when players want to simulate, they run a quick play in this game. What it's supposed to do is grab them a team to play against. Okay, it's just going to go out and grab a random team in the world, somebody's team. It's just a quick play. It's not your league. It's just a chance for you to try your team out against another team. And it could be an AI team. It could be a user team. But overall, it's going to be, what it's going to do is grab a set of teams randomly and then give you one of those teams. And so when it loads up the quick play simulator, it's going to go through those teams and land on one. And that's the team you'll play against. So it's going to generate this matchup randomly. And the thing is, I'm supposed to have that random team selection come in. And the whole point of getting more than one besides just the random team is so that we can kind of have some graphical search that represents the time it's taking for it to pair you up. So is it fake? No, I mean, there's time that has to pass. So it wants to give you something to look at while it's looking for a match, because there are conditions for the matches. Like maybe we want to, some of those conditions don't exist yet, but I do have them planned. I just haven't put them in the code yet, but because there's no teams like it. But what I want to do is implement like a matching criteria. So if your team is like really good and it's winning a lot, it's going to try to find teams that are winning a lot. If your team's losing a lot, it's going to try to put you up against teams that lose a lot, so that you can, you could try to balance out. So ultimately, the goal is to try to give you people with similar success rates and for you to be able to climb a ladder of teams. So everybody, it's basically going to be a big ladder game. So the quick play will just show how everybody's finishes or ranks based on their quick play results. And so you can't randomly get paired against the best team and pass the best team. You might randomly get paired against the best team and jump up, 20 spots or something. You have to win quite a bit to be able to surpass. But now, I I am building this game to be balanced. It's gonna be hard because it's gonna be balanced. Well, I mean, if you have a good team, it's not gonna be balanced in the sense that I'm gonna try to make everything flat. No, everybody's gonna have skills and stats that are kind of based on reality. So the thought is that I'll keep tweaking those to make sure certain things in my playtesting balance out to reality. So you're not going to have a DB that intercepts the ball 15 times a season. I mean, it would be a miraculous occurrence. But if I saw something like that, that's an edge case that creates a situation that says something's wrong with my balance modifiers. Because people who are doing things ridiculously out of play, out of character, that needs to be looked into, because that's not possible. I think the most interceptions any player has ever had is like less than 10, maybe 11. I don't know. It's not a lot. Cortana. See, sometimes she's listening to me and sometimes she's not. I don't know.
Hi there, Kenneth.
Hi. Hey, what is the record in the NFL for most interceptions by a single player in a year?
All right, the all-time NFL record for most interceptions by a single player in a season is held by Night Train Lane, who pulled in a whopping 14 interceptions back in 1952. No one's topped it since. So now I've got to ask you, Kenneth, is there a particular reason you're diving into interception records tonight?
I don't know. She must have lost some of my history, because Cortana knows that I'm working on a game, and it would mention it. Keep saying, "Well, since you're working on this game of yours, blah blah blah." But 14. What did I say? 14. If somebody ever does 14 or something, but that was in 1952. There ain't nobody doing that no more. It was like, I think the level that players excel now. They're all good, right? Back in the before 60s, I'll say in the before 60s, there were great players that maybe could have played now, maybe not, probably not, because I think just training, but I think they would be more fit, more capable now too, so who knows. But ultimately, a lot of the players that played back then wouldn't get within spitting distance of an NFL stadium, because there was such a diversity of players, and salaries weren't as high, right? When you're back in the 50s and 40s and whatever, there wasn't as much motivation for people to go play in the NFL. They just had to love playing in the NFL. That's people who played back then got decent paychecks probably, but these guys weren't millionaires comparatively, unless they were getting marketing benefits. But even then, unless you were the best of the best, you were scraping by. There wasn't a lot of reason to play in the NFL unless you were highly desiring of just playing sports, and you probably got paid well enough for the times, but it wasn't like rich, right? It was a worker's income. Then of course over the years that skyrocketed into stupidity. Now everybody wants to be in the NFL, so all the best players get to play in the NFL if they want to. And therefore, the balance of players playing in the NFL is so much higher because everybody is great. They're all the best. Every player who makes it to the NFL was the best in their high school, their college, or they were, one of the best players of the season of their time in their chosen team, leagues, whatever. And ultimately, that's why I say, even the worst team can win every now and then. It's just the way things are set up now. Oh, good. It's making adjustments to some of the other stuff that needed to have their adjustments made. I need to fix this. Maybe I can have API work on that. API, AI. You man, I mess up the words, the acronyms so much. Sometimes I'll be saying the AI, the UI, the API, blah 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 blah. I mean the API, the API is the endpoints here. But they're all different. I mean, they're all totally different things, right? AI is this tool that I'm using to help write code. UI is the interface, which is totally not AI. And API is not even UI. It's backend. It's the programming interface to my backend services. It's like those aren't the same. You can't be mixing those up. You gotta, come on, Ken. You gotta be on the right task here. Get your terminology right, man. Oh man, it's 10 o'clock already. My time. So you're a 49ers fan, so I would say that would put you, are you on the West Coast then? Like me? Of course, you know, I'm a Broncos fan, which puts me on the west, which would theoretically put me on the western half of the U.S., in the Midwest at least. But nope. I live in Seattle area. So yeah, I'm in the home of the sea chickens. My 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 brother, my parents, they're all Seahawk fans. So I just never switched. I lived in Colorado. I was born in Colorado. When we moved up here, I wasn't a football fan at all. I was just a kid. I didn't care. But I eventually started to care, and then I was like, the Seahawks are really bad. I think I'll be a fan of the Broncos because all of my family, everybody was Bronco fans except for my dad and brothers. Well, my brothers were just kids at the time. In fact, they weren't even born when I started watching football. My dad spread us apart. I mean, my eldest brother is 13 years younger than me. So when I started playing football, the only person who I was differing from was my dad and my stepmom, and who she was only kind of a fan back then, and she's kind of gotten a lot more into it over the years. But so I was just different. And boy, I stood up for my team, man. I'd wear Bronco gear to school. Of course, my team was good, right? So the Seahawks were not good. So a lot of people did not like the way I talked. Because even though Denver hadn't won a lot of the games that they Super Bowls or anything, they were just generally better. I mean, they had a winning record against Seattle. They beat them more often than not, and they did better in the division. They were always winning the Super Bowl, or going to the Super Bowl, or winning the division, or competing with the Raiders for the top spot. And the Seahawks are always just the bottom spot, competing with the Chargers or whoever was down there with them. They'd be competing with them. That's why the Seahawks ended up in the NFC, because when they did the revamp, they took all of the least what do you call it? I want to say when they made those fourth divisions in each conference, they took the teams that were the least rivalries. They had the weakest rivalries within the conference. And Denver, Kansas City, and the Raiders, and even the Chargers to an extent, had massive rivalries. I mean, they were just head-to-head. And the Seahawks were in it, but since they were just never that competitive, nobody really. They were kind of like, eh. So if you think about all the teams that ended up in the new conference, I mean, the Rams were kind of, they rarely were all that great. The Seahawks, 49ers were pretty good, but they were, I forgot what conference they were in, but Um, you know, somebody had to go, I guess, because every conference, every division had to give someone up. And then the Cardinals, they're another team that were just kind of a bunch of also Rams. So I mean, between it was like the Rams, the Seahawks, and the Cardinals. The 49ers were probably thinking, dude, this is our division. We're gonna wreck them. And they probably did for a first couple of years. I don't know. I think after the 49ers have been, yeah, because that was like early 2000s, and the 49ers haven't actually been doing that great with their new division. So yeah, and then the same thing kind of happened over here on in the AFC. Did an NFC even come over? I don't even know why they took teams over to the, because I think they added a team at the time, so they only needed 3 in the AFC. So they added a team, I think it was the Texans that they added, and then like the Browns and I want to say no, it wasn't the Bengals. I always forget some of these. I still think I would stumble knowing all 32 teams. I mean, I know them all, and as soon as somebody would say it's this team, you're like, oh, that's right. I could probably easily name 28 teams, 29 teams, but there'd be a team or two I slip, because it's like the Browns, Texans. It's like who else is in that? Cincinnati. The Cincinnati's with Pittsburgh, and the Bengals and the Ravens. No, I mean the Bengals, Ravens, and the Steelers are all together in their division. I don't remember who the 4th team is. Is that the Browns? We got the Texans. The Texans and Titans. They're not in the same division, are they? I don't know. That's what I guess. I told you I can name probably all the teams. I just couldn't put them all in the right division. Because it's like I know the Bills, the Dolphins, the Patriots, I think are all in the same. The Jets, I think, are on the same division. All right. Create filter query method. Get default teams. Get user teams. Get league teams. Get team count. Added indexes for team collection on user ID and league ID. Team data API routing. Okay. Remaining tasks, API handler, local implementation, need to implement proper local database queries, and handle fallback requests for team endpoints, default teams, sync data, etc. Quick data matchmaking, create API teams, quick play opponents. Aha, see, that's what I wanted to do. Quick play matchmaking, create endpoint for random opponent selection in the sim type button manager. Okay, so just confirming that you configured to use the All right, so anyway, let's go back over to leagues. I need to get this ID. Now, I know I have my create league happening on the teams. No, now it's in board panel. Start create league. We're going to go here, set active. Go to definition. Get user log. Create user league. Go to definition. Default creating league for user. Don't need that. Get username for the league name. Username. Create request, blah, blah, blah. Sending request, got it. Response, if response, blah, blah, blah. Current league response. So if everything succeeds, display team options. So it's this. Should be going into here. Go to definition. Bree Mahler, IO, how you doing? Bree Mahler. What's the latest, man? Display team. I don't want this. All right, so we're gonna display team with lead response. Blah 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 blah. Zed Asha, how you guys going, man? Coding's going all right. I'm just trying to fix a couple of AI. And let's just say AI kind of hopped the rails a little bit, does that every now and then. You got to make sure to put it back on the track before you go forward. You know, it helps a lot, but it also can kind of, I think of AI coding, if you're paying attention to what it's doing, is kind of one of those, I'd probably say like 5 steps forward, 1 to 2 steps back kind of thing. So it's like I'm going faster forward than I would be on my own, considering I didn't know any of these languages. I've had lots of years of coding, but I didn't know these specific. Well, okay, I kind of knew C#, but only in framework. I haven't used it in the current code or whatever. But VS Go or a Go and Mongo and Unity, just the Unity interface. I knew nothing about that. Yeah, and what I'm learning to do though, hey Bitplane, boy, did somebody what's the term? Pass all their users off to me because I've 3 new people in 2 minutes. Normally when somebody raids me, my thing is supposed to show it, but it hasn't happened in a long time. But it just anyway, yeah, the more complex it can be, more refactoring, but it's almost like I said, I'm learning to give it components. Like I no longer give it big global things. It's like I want to do the thing. And I need you to change this and this. Zed, oh, so you're the one, Zed. Well, thank you. I appreciate it. And of course, you're all welcome. And I'm glad to have you here at my stream. But I do find that I have to refactor regularly. I'm also kind of anal about some stuff, for lack of a better term. When I see something that's like, I hate redundancy. So I'm looking through the code. I'm like, oh, but it's doing this twice. And so I refactor that. And then I like, a lot of times I'll see what it's doing and I'm like, I want to centralize this, and then I want to do that, and then but what I'll do when I do talk to AI, it's like, okay, I have this concept in mind, this new feature I want to build in, but first, let's talk about it. So I tell it what I want. It helps me write up some code and documentation kind of. And then I kind of read through what it's thinking, how it thinks is going to go. And then I like, all right, so it broke it down into these steps. So I go ahead and grab like the first step and I'm like, okay, I need you to do this step, but then I add in specifics. And then it'll go, I'll let it go off and do that thing. And then I'll go work on stuff myself. I'll go work in the code doing something else. That's kind of how I've been doing it. And then after about a week or two, actually it's not even fixed time. But what I'll do is I'm stepping through code for a bug that I'm trying to see, and then I start to discover little things that I don't like. It's like, why is it calling 3 layers deep to do something that I don't even need the second layer? I'll just get that out of there. And I start throwing code out. And now that's kind of where I'm at right now. I've been kind of cleaning up some parts of the code. And as a result, refactoring does have a tendency to leave you with some bugs. So that's what I'm doing. I'm fixing those bugs. And then I found some flaws in what AI did that I thought was working, but then I realized it's not because it did something different. I could see that. I mean, it makes sense, right? Because it's an easy way to have a source of problems to kind of get your code to work on, because LeetCode has a lot of options. I honestly, okay, so the industry right now sucks for coders, for developers trying to get a job. You actually can. Gets the job done. But I am an efficiency person. I mean, I like to see code doing things in a sense way. You know what I don't care for? Okay, so I don't know if you've ever worked with Unity, but if you go online and you look for Unity tutorials for how to do X, Y, and Z on Yahoo. YouTube, Yahoo, who uses Yahoo on YouTube, and you go to YouTube and everybody has, I don't even know where this thing is, to be honest. There's this graphical interface when you want to do things, and they have all these blocks, and then you draw lines to all the blocks and you're just plugging stuff in. All you need to do is put this here and draw this line there and this here and draw lines. And I'm like, what is that? That is ugly. I don't even know what that is. I don't want to do it. I would it's like, just do it in code. It's like code just makes more sense. Looking at that scrambled lines going everywhere bit, it's a mess. I don't even know how people work with that. In fact, I'd imagine to some extent I could go, I don't even know, like I said, I don't even know where that is. I never bothered to step into it. So, but just looking at code is so much cleaner to me. It's just like I can step through, I can acknowledge the process, I can yell at AI and go, why did you do this stupid thing? Every time I refactor, I'm like undoing or fixing things. But again, the amount of code AI has written that's plenty good and usable, and even though I've had to refactor things to clean stuff up, is hundreds of times more code than I could have written. This last year, I started this application a year ago, and it's coming together nicely. I mean, I wish you guys were here when everything was running good, which was like 2 days ago, till I started adding in new functionality. So, like, was it Sunday? I decided it was time. Okay, so I don't know if you even know what this is. Okay, you may look at my description. I don't even know if it says for sure, but I'm building a football game, American football, not soccer. It's a simulation game. It's a management game, like front office football or college or the program on the phone or Football Manager 26 on the phone, or one of those. I think there's one called Red Zone Glory or Red Zone something on the internet. But they're management games where you don't really play the game, but you can like draft your players, set up your game plan, do your playbook, play. Well, my game is going to do something that so far I haven't seen any of these games can do, but I've already got a back end developed because I created a back end that's all written in Go, and it's got like 14 services. If I can figure out where my code is, so all these services here are my back end, and it's just a bunch of API calls to various services for players and playbooks and game plans and simulation and all that stuff. And I have I have two UIs, although I haven't been spending much time on the web one. But the web one, I created a play editor. It allows me to create my plays. It takes a snapshot of the play, saves it as an image of the play, saves the parameters of the play to a database so that all the actions that each player needs to do are stored in the database, and then those actions will be pulled up and implemented into how the players actually act on the field. And different from all the other games that are out there, my game is going to actually have a visual simulation. I want to say there might be one I saw the other day that kind of has one, but it's like real choppy 8-bit kind of that players kind of moving on the field, and it's kind of weird looking. I'm actually using 3D, and again, I may be out of my depth on the graphics part of this, but the logic stuff is where I excel. That's my stuff, being able to go in there and make it all work and all the numbers and everything come together. But it's more of my goal is to be in the middle of the road between an action sim where you're playing and controlling everything, and some of these full-on management games, like front office football. Front office football, I was reading through its feature list, and one of the lines said something about there's over 205 pages of things to do, and I'm like, 205? Why? Why would you need 205 pages of stuff? I looked at snapshots, and it's got tabs on the side, tabs across the top. You click on one, there's tabs inside the page, and this stuff's just all over the place. It's like you're like a deer in the headlights. You get in there like, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what this is. It's just I like football. I love the idea of managing a team, but that's just it's like in the weeds, man. So I'm gonna mow the weeds down, but I'm gonna have some nice grass. That's the goal. I'm gonna have some good options. You're gonna be able to have a nice, thorough game plan. You're gonna have nice, manageable playbook. You're gonna be able to. You're going to have a good set of players and trading and basic player auctions. Right now, I've got it auto creating the league, your first league. It's got then you can select your team and move and give it a name, and then move on. Now, my game uses real NFL player data, so it's actually every player is built off of real stats, and they're given fake names though, because. But they're names that are able to be figured out. They're mapped to actual real players. You can figure them out. Then you can go into your playbook and your game plan. And of course, you got your user account stuff. So all these pages work right now. The only thing that doesn't really work yet, I haven't done the sim, and I don't have a roster view yet. So front office stuff, it's not in there. My first demo, I'm hoping to have a demo within a few months. I've been on this for over a year. And really, I feel like if I was doing this without I wouldn't be as half as far as I am right now. And I'm not even sure. I think I would have already been cutting out a bunch of features. Oh yeah, sports management games have decent following. Though, in fact, there's a soccer game called Football Manager. Yeah, Football Manager. It's considered one of the gold standard for management games. Now, that one actually does have real player simulations. They actually have players that move around on the field. So you could watch the game and see your guys playing out the game, which I think is super cool. I think that's the way a sim should be, because it's like so many of these management games, they just have bars that move around on the field. Hey, you kicked off, and your guy went up, he punted. There's like nothing there. There's a lot of them that just do that. And it's like, if I were to ever buy a football team and all I could do is read the box score at the end of the game to see how my people did, I'd sell the team. It's like, well, why on earth would you want to buy a team if you don't actually want to watch them play? So my goal is to try to make the simulation entertaining as well. Have some stuff in there that makes it kind of cool. Now, I don't know how much really good graphics I'll have because I am not a graphics guy. Yeah, I like the idea of I like simulations because for one, they're very balanced when you play against other people. Oh, that's another thing my games can do. It's going to have multi. I mean, you can play with other people. You can even be in other leagues with other people by design. A lot of these other management games. Now, again, I don't know about the soccer ones. I haven't bought some of those. I don't play soccer enough, or I don't have enough knowledge of it to really understand or get into the minutia of soccer management. I have actually played with a couple of the college options. And then I'm poor because I've been unemployed now for quite some time because of stupid job world. Um, am I bitter about that? Maybe, but I'm actually glad. I'm really enjoying developing this game. And I'm looking forward to getting a demo done. And that's kind of what I've been really pushing forward. I feel like I'm getting close with all my pages starting to work. Once I get the game plan and the playbook to fully function, I mean, they're loading and I can put data in. It's just that they're not fully intertwined yet. They need to be before my simulation can call the coaching. I have a coaching service. So what happens is the simulation runs and it tracks the situation. 4th and 2 on the blah, blah, blah yard line. It takes that, passes it to the coaching service. The coaching service reads that, and then basically it calls the playbook service, which pulls back whatever plays that match the situation. Then the coach, using whatever coach logic I've built in, will actually decide which of the plays that it has an option to pick. Those plays are actually passed up, and the selection are passed up with the play results, which come up to the UI, and the UI will display the plays and show you which one the coach picked. It'll then execute the play. The play will then run on the screen. But since you can actually be playing against someone else in real time, your team will be playing against someone, and therefore it's all ran on the back end at a fixed pace. So basically, it'd be like watching a game. You just click on the game, it runs, and you're getting it. Even if you shut off your game, it still runs in the back end. So you could actually shut off your game, and I have a whole setup planned. I've already kind of laid out the documentation layout. I want to send push notifications. Such and such team has defeated blah blah blah. Your team has defeated so and so for league games. Of course, those are all settings. I mean, if you don't want that, you can turn that off. But I think it'd be kind of cool to have your game is kicked off at such and such time, and now you're able to and it'll let you know as the quarters. And at the end of the first quarter, you're losing, 14-0. Oh no! Yeah, all of the back-end services are in Golang. All of my back-end stuff has been written in Golang, and I have a gateway, a gRPC gateway written that makes all the API calls to all the services, and then those services will run the processes, pass them back to the gateway, which will send them up to whatever UI is attached, and then it just displays the results. So the UI won't have much. But see, that's what I was doing. Remember, I said a minute ago that everything was kind of working sort of good as far as some of the features I had going, and I could navigate my app. Well, in the last couple of days, I was like starting to pull data in and starting to have it interacting with the front end really nice and doing its display stuff. And I was like, I'm pulling all this data up, and of course, discussing, reading all the benefits and such of where am I holding this data, and I was thinking I should put it in memory so that I don't have to keep making calls back to the back end. And I said one of my features that I was planning on working on later, like way later, like towards the end, was to make the game playable offline, where you don't have to be connected to the internet. And I had recently, just in the last month or so, hashed out exactly how I was going to define what's playable offline and what's not. And once I had that kind of ironed out, I was like, oh, well, I kind of know that. I have this data now. I need to figure out, I think I'm just going to create a local database and start storing stuff locally. So when the app loads, it's going to go get all the users' data. It still synchronizes with the backend, but it'll get their users' data along with the users along with the users' league, which would be like an AI league, because the first league you get is just an AI league. There's no people in it, and then that stores locally. And then I was like, okay, if I'm gonna do that, I'm storing all the data locally. That's what I was working with AI here to try to set up the API router. I actually created an API router that now all my front-end functionality doesn't change, theoretically. It calls the API router and says, okay, I need this data. While the router goes, are we online? Is this information I can just pull locally? It's like, yes, everything is supposed to be able to be pulled locally unless it's online only, which would be like head-to-head against other players, league games, anything that's cross-platform or cross-internet is only online. So if you go offline, it'll give you like a warning. Well, you're now in offline mode. These kind of games or these kind of features aren't available. But your current stuff, your AI league, your game plan, whatever you change, will synchronize the next time you connect online. So you can make all your changes and do whatever you want. It'll all sit there and work on your phone. So you go camping and you want to play football. Well, you can. You can just play it. And then when you go online, thing is, you won't be able to play against other people because I'm not going to create Bluetooth crap and trying to figure out how to get that to synchronize. No, I don't want to do that. But you could play on your own, just run your team and play your local league. And then when you get back, or as soon as there's internet again, it'll synchronize. There will be a warning on there, though. You got to synchronize first before you go play on another platform. Like, you can't go open up your desktop version before you synchronize, or you'll lose whatever was on your phone's progress, because can't have data coming from two different places. I mean, maybe you can. I'll look into that more later, but to what extent, I don't know. I don't want to overcomplicate it for my own sake, my own sanity. But anyhow, yes, all the new functionality added, which means they all respect the first. All requests go through. However, I noticed we need to configure the specific team endpoints in the endpoint configs dictionary. Currently, there's only a generic API teams entry, but our new endpoints won't match it as a prefix. Currently, configuration API router. We need to add configurations for blah, 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 blah. Okay. Yes. just trying. I'm trying to remember. Trying to say, okay, do I want that? Oh yeah, okay. Add matching endpoints for service. What time is it? Oh, it's 10:40. It's getting late, man. Man, I really want my app to run right now because I want to show it. It's actually kind of cool. It's kind of fun when things start to work. When you've been working on a game for so long and you're just starting to see things kind of flow and connect and things popping up and images going out. Again, I did say I'm not an artist. I'm not a graphics guy. I visualize graphics nice. I can visualize what's good. Like if I was working with an artist, I could say do this, and I could see if it's good, and I could appreciate it. But all the art in my game is AI generated. So all you AI haters, sorry, AI art haters, you think it's bad with code. People have their own little, there's plenty of people who kind of have a negative feel about AI code. And honestly, AI could not write what I've done. I mean, if I hadn't gone in there and messed with it, it wouldn't work. I mean, I wouldn't even have. It tried to write when I did my first couple of services, and I didn't know Go, so I had to have it write it. I had to go in there, figure out what it was doing, because I said, all right, once this is done and I got a working service, then I had it write a second service, and it did it totally different. I'm like, is this doing the same thing? It's like, is this working the same way? And it's like, and then I would look at which one I like better. It says, this one's, really good. I want this. It says, you need to model all my services after this service. And this is one thing AI is really good at. I will say this about AI. It can model code after other code really well, which is really nice because the whole process of creating a service is cumbersome and big. And there's a lot of parts you have to create just to make it work. So if I have a gRPC gateway with Golang, I have to have the service. I have to have all the API calls. I have to have a handler in the service that picks up the call. Then that API handler or gRPC handler calls into the service itself and calls whatever functions you create within the service. And those functions, any return codes or any requests or response values have to go through a proto file. So you create this proto file with responses and requests. So it goes from your gateway to your service using proto requests all the way through, and then it sends back a proto response all the way through. So you're talking about a minimum of 4 things that have to be created just to plug it in, just to get it into existence. And then after that, you got to start creating all the functions and pieces that are actually going to flow through. And like each of my services is broken down into a types file, store, service, and main. Those are the 4 primaries. I do break them out further when they get big, like to specific services within the user account or within the playbook or players or whatever. Because sometimes they get really big, and I don't like them to be more than so many pages. Yeah. That's pretty much how I have found AI. It's really good at laying down groundwork, getting that bulk bunch of stuff in place. And then you go through and you kind of like, okay, well, let's focus on this. Let's focus on this. Let's focus on this. And we just slowly hash things out. And sometimes you can give it small tasks. Like right now, it's really nice. Like I could actually say if I need a new function that does something simple, like for example, I have a new function that needs to be written for a new API that's going to basically get the quick play team selection. Now I gave it the criteria already for how I want that built. And what it does is whenever quick play is called, it's going to get back, it's going to generate the random team selection and pass it on up. Pretty simple. I think overall the function is probably not going to be more than 20 lines, and maybe, I mean, it depends on what all is going on. But in doing that, a new function for APIs is I got to create the routes, right? So I got to create the API route, which then goes down here and creates the handler. The handler then calls the gRPC gateway, calling whatever ID that's in the gateway. And then I'm sorry, not the gateway. It calls the gRPC handler on the service, which will then do the same thing. It'll receive that call from the gateway. It'll then call the function itself. So that right there is 4 pieces. It's the route plus the handler to the gRPC handler file, calling the services, I don't know, receiver. And then it calls its own handler, which calls the actual services function. That function will then return it. So that's for this there. Then you have the actual function call. But this stuff here is very basic. You know, it's just, this is, 3 lines. This is, 4 lines, or depending on how much, 5 lines, 6 lines, whatever. And then the gRPC handler is the same thing. It just has basic, sets of lines. And then you define what you want to be returned with that information. So that sets up the protos. That's another 4 or 5 or 10 lines. And you get all those things in place. But you tell the AI, model this after like one of these other functions, and it creates all the parts and all those little pieces that normally might take a couple of hours to get working right, because, syntax errors, typing errors, just forgetting something, just things that people do when they're typing. It just goes, boom, it's done. It just gets all that layout done. It's literally there in a minute. And then you can have it write the simple function. The simple function is what it's going to call. So what I'll do is I'll say, like, I need a new function called blah. It returns blah. It's going to be provided blah. Go to it. Or sometimes if I'm smart, if my day is really going well, I'll tell it, make sure you include the gateway API call and the gRPC handler call on the service end, and whatever proto file updates we need. And it does all of it. You just tell it that stuff, and bam, it's good to go. And for simple things like that, it generally works the first time. And then when it's done, I just say, okay, now add the API handler, or I'll do it, because I have kind of a complex API handler system on my... Okay, it's not complex. It's complex in terms of the AI is too stupid to figure it out. It's human simple, AI complicated. It's just because the way humans think is not the same as the way AI thinks. Okay, so when any of my data files calls the actual data, it goes through this API router. Now this API router has, it's got all these routes. These are the function, or the endpoints that it's going to call. And whether or not we're in offline mode or network mode. But ultimately, a lot of these endpoints, these are the ones that are defined for the local service. So it's a little bit different. But I have all these endpoints are actually defined here. Okay, so the way this is set up is pretty simple. These are the service routes, the service route parts. I have a user service, a playbook service, simulator service. And I just set these up. I just put these in here and I have it there. I don't know why I chose to do it this way, because it just seemed cleaner to have it fixed. I don't like repetitive stuff. If I ever need to change a name of a service, which by the way, I have recently done, so it does happen. Take the S off or add an S or whatever. I do that because I'll look at it, it's just, I just don't like this name. It's killing me. All right, so then I have these base routes. That's these guys. My production and development routes. You can see I don't actually have a production route yet. But my local routes, and these are the routes that it's going to call when I set this up. So whenever one of my functions or data files needs a call, so they get the game plan, the base route plus the endpoint, bam. And then inside of the data file, it defines the actual endpoint. So what's the actual piece of whatever that needs to happen, and that happens within the data files. and then it calls it back, and then it calls the router, which takes those endpoints and decides whether to go through the local or the backend. That's all it's doing. It's taking those routes and deciding who to call. So essentially, these two guys are going to have the same endpoints defined within them. And then we will just decide where we're routing that endpoint. And then the idea is, all the stuff I've been working on these last couple of days and what broke my code is getting this local to be local first, which means everything you do is going to first try to do it locally, as long as it doesn't have something that's blocking it, like the data doesn't exist. Well, if the data's not there, let's go out and try to do it externally. If we don't have an endpoint for it, let's go do it on the network. If it's AI, if it's a multiplayer, it's going to go to the network. There are situations where it's just going to go to the network, but if it's all something that can be run locally, it's going to go get that data straight from the local, which is just the microservices. They're basically just bindings to those endpoints that act like services. It's not a true gateway service, but it's just on the machine or on your local thing. So it'll take those routes and route to whatever it needs to get the data. So AI has endlessly messed this up. I got it. I mean, it helped me to structure it, but when I started doing stuff like simplifying the endpoints for my purposes, AI cannot do it. It keeps rebuilding the endpoints. Not changing mine, but like instead of using that structure, it just creates it again. And I tell it, don't do that. Use the structure I'm using. It looks at it and goes, okay. And then you come back and go, that's not what I was doing. You messed it up again. So now I don't let it do that on the front end. I go and create my own endpoints. Once they create the endpoints for like a new function, I'll add it to the front end. And then I just say, call this function as your, whenever it's doing something on the front end, I have it reference the API router call for whatever it's doing. Anyway, it's 11 o'clock-ish, guys. Hey, I really appreciate you coming by, and I thank Zed. I know he's probably gone. I hope if you guys are interested in seeing where this goes the next few months, I stream a lot. You probably look at my thing and go, well, dude, he's got streams all over. I stream a lot, probably multiple times a week. And usually it's updates. As you can see here, I usually get a lot more done when I'm offline than on. But I do come back and do an hour or two to kind of be progress showing, letting people see where I'm at. And I hope you'll follow, subscribe, do all that cool stuff. And, I could always use the new subscribers and followers. But I appreciate it, BitPlane, and everybody else who has come by and said hi. And Chun, who was talking to me about his 49ers. Against my Broncos. Not against, but we were both talking about our football teams. It's always good to talk football when developing a football game. American football. Not soccer. Till next time, everybody. Thanks for stopping by. God bless.